This is Greg Sayre. I have 1 o'clock, but let's give people a couple more minutes to come in before we actually get started. Mr. Hubbard, are you ready to go on the record?
I am. Just one moment. Okay, we're on the record.
We are on the record. I call matter number 21-02182 in the matter of the Commission's broadband study and mapping pursuant to the Broadband Connectivity Act. Good afternoon and welcome. We are here today for a public statement hearing that was noticed on January 26, 2022. This public statement hearing concerns the Public Service Commission's study and mapping of broadband service, which basically means high-speed internet service. In a minute, we'll have a presentation from Department of Public Service staff about this study and what we are hoping to learn from the public. The public statement hearings to be held today, now and later at 6 p.m. and again at 1 and 6 p.m. tomorrow, and also at 1 and 6 on March 3 and 4, are intended for public input into the study. My name is Greg Sayre. I am an administrative law judge for the Department of Public Service. I'm responsible for presiding over the hearings in this case and any legal procedural issues that might arise. This matter is currently before the Public Service Commission, and the study is being conducted by Department of Public Service staff. The commission consists of 7 members, and we are honored to have 2 of the commissioners online and with us today, Commissioner Diane Berman and Commissioner John Maggiore. Commissioner Berman, would you like to make some remarks?
Yes, thank you so much, Judge. Yes, hello, my name is Diane Berman. I've been a commissioner since 2013. The study for looking at broadband mapping and availability across the state is a really important one. I'm glad to be participating as a listener today in the public statement hearing, seeking information from the public as it relates to this broadband mapping study. And I look forward to folks' comments today. Again, my role here today is as a listener, and I tend to listen carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Berman. Commissioner Maggiore, would you like to make some remarks?
Thank you, Judge Sayre. I would just echo what Commissioner Berman said. I'm here to listen, and I reiterate, as she said, that I view this to be a very important matter before the PSC. So thank you, everybody who came out for today's session. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Maggiore. Before we get into the details of the study, I want to explain the other ways you can comment in this matter other than by speaking at these public statement hearings. If you did not pre-register to speak at one of the hearings, but you would like your views included in the record, there are a variety of other ways to comment that were listed in the public notice for these hearings. For those of you with computer access, we're showing a slide with the other ways to comment, and all of the details are in the January 26th public notice for today's event. You can comment by submitting comments on the department's website, or by email, or by regular mail, or by phone. And staff will explain in a minute how you can participate in the study by completing our broadband assessment study and our speed test. Regardless of how the comments are submitted, they will be given equal consideration. Comments may be submitted and will be considered throughout the pendency of this proceeding. However, and you'll be hearing this date again a few times from us. Because this study needs to be done in a timely way, we really need your input by March 18th. Department of Public Service staff now has a brief presentation explaining the study and the kinds of information we're hoping to get from the public. I'm not getting any audio with the slides. Would staff like to do a voiceover?
Sure thing. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Valerie Galasso, and I serve as the Chief of Public Policy in the Office of Telecommunications at the Department of Public Service. Thank you all for joining today. I'd love to start us off by talking a little bit about why we're here today. In April of last year, the legislature passed the Comprehensive Broadband Connectivity Act of 2021. The bill allowed the Department of Public Service to create the Broadband Assessment Program, a program now housed within the agency's, forgive me, I was still working off of the last slide. If we could just go back to 5, please. Thank you. In any event, we had created the Broadband Assessment Program via the legislature's Broadband Assessment Program. The bill was passed in April of last year, and the bill allowed for the agency to map broadband, forgive me all, I'm just pulling up the slide deck on my end, thank you. A program now housed within the agency's Office of Telecommunications. The program, whose work will be updated annually, will release this spring New York's first ever in-depth interactive broadband map detailing the availability and reliability of high-speed broadband infrastructure statewide. We are committed at the agency to making this program something that can be used by everyone, but we need your input in order to understand what's happening in your communities. Next, I'd love to tell you a little bit about how we're conducting our research. Broadband mapping, as one can assume, is no small task, and that's why we at the department are using a 3-pronged approach. First, we are using internet service provider data to help us assess gaps statewide. Second, we're conducting field verification of high-speed infrastructure in the most remote places in New York State. And lastly, we're hearing straight from the consumer via our broadband assessment survey and through our series of 8 public statement hearings. What we hope to learn from today are a myriad of issues. We want to hear about your internet accessibility barriers writ large. Among other topics, we're interested in hearing from those of you who are dealing with the following. You lack internet service entirely. Internet is unaffordable to you. You lack ISP competition in your area. And you don't feel like you're getting the speeds that you pay for. Next up, I'd love to discuss 2 of our calls to action. Our first is we're asking everyone to take our broadband assessment survey and speed test by March 18th, 2022. For those of you that are here with us today, thank you for joining us. We hope that you will spread the word of this survey to those in your community and in your families who were not able to be here today and would like to contribute to this important discussion. You can visit www.empirestatebroadband.com from your home computer, a laptop, mobile device, or while visiting a public Wi-Fi location. If you're unable to take the survey due to a lack of connectivity, you can call our toll-free broadband assessment line at 1-855-NY-BB-MAP. That's 1-855-692-2622. 27. And for those of you who have already completed the survey, thank you. We are proud to report that to date, we have had more than, and this number has been updated as of this morning, 20,000 households and businesses from every corner of the state who have completed this survey, and that number continues to grow. Our final call to action is we at the department are doing what we can to make sure every eligible New Yorker is aware of the FCC's new Affordable Connectivity Program, also known as the ACP. This program provides discounts up to $30 a month toward internet service. You can visit www.fcc.gov/ACP or call 877-384-2575 for more information and to sign up. Thank you so much, and I will hand it over to Judge Sayer.
Thank you very much. Now we'll get into the process that we're going to follow today to take public comments. The purpose of our hearing is to provide you with an opportunity to tell the Commission your thoughts on the issues in this proceeding, as Ms. Galasso has just explained. The statements you make today will become part of the case record. We have a court reporter joining us who will prepare a transcript of the hearing, which will be included in the official record of this proceeding, so that your comments can be considered by members of the Commission. When it is ready, the transcript will be available for view on the Department of Service website. This hearing is also being live streamed on the internet. This hearing is not an evidentiary hearing with cross-examination or a question and answer session, but is a forum to hear comments from you. If you have pre-registered to make a statement, we ask that you please summarize lengthy written statements orally and submit the full written statement by email or mail. Because of the number who have registered to speak, to be fair to those who are waiting to speak, we're also asking that you try to stay within a 5-minute time limit. Please feel free to be shorter for your oral comments today. If you seem to be taking a little too long, I may jump in and ask you to summarize and finish up, in which case you should send in the full details of your comments by one of the alternative means that I explained earlier and that are explained in the January 26th notice. Just a note about why we're doing this virtually. It's because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Normally, if this were an in-person public statement hearing, people would be allowed to sign up and make statements as they come into the hearing room, and as long as the hearing is going on. But in this hearing, we cannot easily identify people as they get on the line to listen to the hearing. So as a result, as stated in the notice of this public statement hearing, we asked people to pre-register if they wish to make a public statement at today's hearing. Like the cards that would be used to identify speakers in a face-to-face hearing, the pre-registration process allows us to identify people who indicated that they want to make a comment. There are people who signed up and are participating electronically, and there are those who have signed up and are participating by phone. If you're going to speak, whether you're on the computer or just on the phone, you should only use one audio input and one audio output at your end. Otherwise, we may experience problems with feedback while you're speaking. I will first call the persons who have timely pre-registered electronically, one by one, to speak. We will then call those people by name. When we call your name, Ms. Sangeetha Kailas from our Consumer Services Office will let you know that you're unmuted. Please remember that if you have put your own telephone line or your computer on mute, you will also have to unmute your line at your end before you begin to speak. Please start by stating and spelling your name. Please speak slowly and clearly so that the court reporter can accurately capture your statement for the record. And now let's begin. Our first speaker is Monty James from the town of Lewis.
Monte James, if you have called in as a call-in user for this hearing, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you.
I guess we don't have Mr. James yet. We'll circle back and pick up the ones at the end of the hearing who don't show up to speak when I first call their name. We'll move on to Warren Hart from the Greene County Economic Development and Planning.
Hi, Warren is here.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Warren Hart. I'm Deputy County Administrator for Greene County. I'm also the Department Head for Economic Development, Tourism, and Planning. We've been working here in Greene County for almost 10 years on broadband, and we did very well during the 3 rounds of the New York broadband program. We have undertaken a process just like the PSC in the state of New York to map and inventory and look at our availability of broadband. And I wanted to make that the PSC aware of that and request that you factor that into your statewide mapping as well. We have done a survey. We've had almost 2,000 responses. We mapped every road in the county. We have a broadband consortium. We have 4 local internet service providers. We've been working with them closely for years. We have a broadband report that we've just published. We work with our GIS department, and we have shape files, GIS files, based on the subscriber data. The actual data from each of our 4 providers was provided to us. We have the most sophisticated maps and location by road and by address of every resident in Greene County, whether they're served, unserved, or underserved. We have approximately 1,300 residences that are still unserved in Greene County. 96% of all of our addresses in our county are served. There's about 200 miles of unserved roads in Greene County. And those roads, while they're all across the county, proportionally, most of them are in the Catskill Mountains. And it's towns like Windham and Ashland and Prattsville and Jewett. They are very rural, it's mountainous, it's very difficult to provide service to them. And I'll add either through broadband or through cellular communications as well. So we have mapped all of those, and we have a plan and a process with our local providers. As part of our survey, the results came in as typical. I imagine the same kind of results that you're receiving. Most people that, these residents that don't have any access whatsoever, that is their main issue. The other one has to do with affordability. And there are programs out there for that at the state and federal level. There's also issues with competition. But I don't think the competition, at least in our county, is an issue that's easily resolved, because we're talking about the last mile, very rural, low density homes. There isn't barely enough return for our companies, our internet service providers, to serve those homes through extensions of their existing networks, let alone to have a completely different ISP that doesn't already have a network or a footprint in the county, to come in and think that they're going to create out of whole cloth and serve those remaining households and do it in a cost-effective manner. So we've been working really hard, and what I wanted to comment on and recommend is that when the state uses all of this great information, please make sure that all of the work that our county and several other counties that have already gone through this process is included in your mapping and in the data that's used by the broadband office or the state of New York in making decisions about the upcoming the Broadband the Connect All program. We have an excellent working relationship and have been working really hard with Senator Hinchey, Assemblyman Tague, and Congressman Delgado. Our legislature, this is a high priority for our county. We're working directly, and we're looking to use some of our federal ARPA funds that's available right now for broadband. Again, I've been working on this for a long time and I understand how long the process takes. So we're doing what we can to put money immediately into getting residents up to speed with broadband. But we want to compete for the state funds that are available that will be coming through the Connect All program. And what I would recommend or suggest is that for counties like Greene that have a plan, that have very detailed maps based on direct data coming from our providers. And we have a consortium, we're getting right from our providers all of the costs to serve the rest of those unserved households that we would like to be able to apply jointly as a county with our providers for state funds. And we would undertake the delivery of those funds to provide last mile service to our residents. If a program comes out from the state that's like the reverse auction that took place last time, I'm concerned that the providers, if they have to compete individually, that they'll still continue to only select those roads where they can make a return. If we do it together with all 4 providers in the county, I think we can do a better job. And what I've been talking about with our providers is I want a plan that covers all of the roads in Greene County, not just what they would compete for again in a reverse auction. And a couple other final comments. I know we have a time limitation here. Our last mile roads are so rural for those 1,300 residences. It may need to be that the state of New York considers a 100% grant for those remaining roads. There are so few houses on some of these roads that these companies, even at a 90-10 or an 80-20 split, they may not bid on those roads because it will take a larger influx of public funds and a subsidy to do that. The other issue that's also driving the cost here is the make-ready work for all of the lease and the surveying and the maintenance and the fit-up work for pole attachments for fiber. When I meet with our internet service providers, they tell me that that is their #1 barrier to pulling fiber on these remaining rural roads. The costs are too expensive. The maintenance of that is a significant driver. And I do appreciate the state of New York adopting the new law that will cost share and soften some of those pole restrictions, and also the PERM 75 requirement through the DOT to get permits and fees and the annual costs moving forward. I understand some of those will be waived. Those are significant challenges for the county, for our providers. We are ready to go as a county. We're as shovel ready, and we've advanced ourselves as at Greene County taxpayer expense to be able to compete for those funds that come from New York State to serve those last miles. We think we can do an excellent job in partnership with our providers and in support from the state of New York if we're allowed in that grant application to apply directly. Thank you again for this opportunity to make some comments.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Our next speaker is Edward Watt from the Village of Nelliston.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes. To add to the comments from the gentleman from Greene County, I shouldn't take a full 5 minutes. We've looked at some equity issues here in Montgomery County, particularly with the western end. So there have been, I work as not just a municipal employee, but also as a teacher in the area. And one of the things that's become very clear is it's very hard for businesses to start here. From what we're seeing, it's also been very difficult for families to have equity with access to education. I'm sure these are things that you guys are not unfamiliar with. I just wanted to add some of those personal comments in there. With the village, we're more and more adding digital and virtual services to what we're doing. I provide that actually for a few different villages now, some assistance with creating websites and some other technical support. And I think that in terms of what's holding us back growth-wise is a rollout of more access to high-speed internet. A number of residences are struggling with having access to maybe only one provider, and that provider not providing the full range of broadband that they need in order to even have access to it for work at home, let alone starting their own business. Again, I didn't have a very long comment, but I think a lot of what I wanted to state for the record was spoken to by the gentleman from Greene County. So I didn't want to say anything too redundant. That's basically the gist of my statement.
Thank you, Mr. Watt. Our next speaker is Robert Drake from the town of Shandaken.
Robert Drake, if you have called in for hearing, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you. Robert Drake, if you have called in to this public statement hearing, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you. I cannot locate you electronically. Thank you.
We'll circle back to him. Our next speaker is Keith Cooper from the Spencer Van Etten Central School District.
Keith Cooper, if you have called into this public statement hearing, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you. I'm unable to locate you electronically. Thank you. No raised hand, Your Honor.
Our next speaker is Richard Frank. Please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, this is Rich. I'm with NIACOM. We've got 700 million in funding to build broadband, and we're doing fiber to the home deployment, XPS PON, which is capable of 10 gig speeds. We're seeing a lot of the counties go with what we consider short-term wireless solutions, like ODAS systems or whatever, because they're not actually funding the monies to build out fiber to the home. My real concern is we started gearing up back in 2020, and right as we were gearing up and securing our funding, the state of New York started that PERM 75 process. So in 2020, I was able to get a permit on a state road in a matter of weeks, if not maybe a month. The PERM 75 now drags that out 6 months, and it quadruples my cost because I now not only have to pay to bury a cable on the right of way, the state is forcing an unfair tax on us that we have to pay if we attach to a pole that they don't even own. So I don't know how this ever got through the legislature because we believe it can be legally challenged, but it's per foot per strand. So if it's coming out of my head and say that's per foot, say 20 cents per foot times a 432 per foot, you're talking tens of thousands, if not $100,000. Like if I'm building Route 78, going from downtown Buffalo out to Lockport, right? Because I want to build, these more rural areas. We're currently building Lockport, Clarence, Cheektowaga, the outskirts of that, Lancaster, East Aurora, Grand Island. And between that PERM 75 and the make-ready fees, it's killing us. It's making it almost impossible for us to deploy the number of homes. We're looking to reach 500,000 homes in the next 5 to 7 years. And it's not going to be possible unless we can get some sort of consideration from the states. Get rid of that PERM 75 would be ideal. because it's just slowing me down. You know, everybody wants broadband, but now the state's slowing me down 6 months. And then secondly, if they don't want to get rid of the Perm 75 process, then and kick it back to the regions, which is what should happen, is where it was before, then they should waive the fees, and they should also help with the make-ready costs. Because when I apply to, it doesn't matter if it's NIMO, New York State Electric and Gas, Verizon, whoever, when you get out in urban areas, the poles tend to be older and, you know, need more make-ready, and it's just killing us on our cost per home pass bill. To Mr. Hart's statement about that last mile and those rural ones, I'd like to bring up the fact that the way we've been approaching it, I just submitted all my answers to the NTIA. The NTIA has got 65 billion to spend, so we answered a lot of their questions, and hopefully when they put that grant out, it'll come out right. But what we propose as an actual ISP, that our business case is basically at $1,200 per home passed. Anything over that needs to be subsidized somehow, whether it be from the state, the feds, or whatever. You can, from a business perspective, I can't build it if it costs more than $1,200 per home passed. So somebody needs to be looking at it that way. And to Mr. Hart's thing, you know, I'd be happy to, you know, okay, here's the price. I'll form an ISP in his hometown, and you know, I can go anywhere I want in the state, and you pay the difference between over and above that 1,200, and I'll build and operate that network. And that's our approach been to multiple towns and counties. That's basically all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Our next speaker is Mark Smith. Mr. Smith, if you have dialed in, please press *3 on your phone so we can identify you.
Mark Smith, if you have called into the public statement hearing, please press *3 on your phone to locate you.
We'll circle back. Our next speaker is Carolyn Price.
Hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you very much. And I'd like to thank you, Judge Sayre, also Commissioners Berman and Magori for this opportunity. And I'd say already I've learned so much from the previous speakers. I really appreciate this. I'm going to focus on the lack of reliable, affordable broadband in some rural areas of our state. What is the problem? Why has this occurred? And how can we fix the problem? The problem is that hotspots and satellite service are unreliable. They don't have acceptable speeds, and they're costly. And I'm going to give you a few examples. A parent has to get up at 5 a.m. to help start the upload of homework. And sometimes those uploads aren't completed until noon, taking 7 hours. A college student is online taking an exam. A thunderstorm takes out the hotspot internet connection. The student jumps in the car and speeds to a friend's house to complete the exam to avoid getting a 0 on that exam. A senior citizen wants to connect with the senior center for programs. The only place a tablet can get service is in the front doorway. This does not work because the senior citizen has to be in a recliner most of the time. A parent wanting reliable broadband for students in the home is spending $400 a month for internet service. These are real happenings faced by people in rural areas of our state. Why has this problem occurred in these rural areas? Well, and we've heard it mentioned, there's low population density, and we know that's not going to change because it's a rural area. The faulty maps of where reliable broadband service is needed has been another problem. Great to hear what Greene County is doing. and the challenge of return on investment for infrastructure for the companies, and we just heard that spoken to. These are the reasons we have these problems, but they can be fixed. The PSC conducting the assessment of broadband access in communities across the state. This is wonderful. And I know you said you have 20,000 people that have participated. I hope we can get those numbers much higher before March 18th. I would like to note, I live in Broome County. I'm also the executive director of the Upstate Towns Association. And here in Broome County, we're doing the mapping also. And I would say the same thing as Mr. Hart said about Greene County. Please reach out to get Broome County's information so that your information at the state level is complete. The challenge on return on investments, that has been spoken to also. And I was glad to hear a number, hadn't heard that before, about $1,200 of houses passed. And yes, there do need to be subsidies. It's also good that the federal Affordable Connectivity Program is providing discounts of up to $30 a month for internet service for families that need that help. But think about the example I gave you of a family that's paying $400 a month. This needs to change. I would also point out that going forward, we need to give preference to wired broadband. It is the gold standard. It gives reliability, and it also offers so many opportunities for future expansions. I'd also, before I close, I would just like to reinforce some of the things that we've already heard. I agree with Mr. Hart that the state in the most rural areas may have to do 100% grant to make this possible. And even though we know that the wired fixed broadband is the best, when you get a very isolated residence, we may in the end have to look at some wireless and some of the new lower satellite. I'd also, Mr. Frank, when he spoke about the PERM 75 and the make ready fees, these are huge problems too. And I know I've spoken before the state about this. The tax that's on there that goes to the highway department, and I believe Senator Hinchey introduced a bill to repeal this. This needs to be done. We should not be putting up barriers to these companies that are willing to go out there and put the broadband in that's needed. And we hear over and over again how expensive the make ready fees are. And I'm glad Mr. Frank spoke to that. I'd really like to thank you for your attention to this problem of lacking reliable, affordable broadband in some rural areas of our state. Those of us who live in rural areas, we really look forward to this problem being solved. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your comments, Ms. Price. Our next speaker is Kathleen Rego. Please, you're unmuted. Ms. Rego, are you possibly muted at your end? You're unmuted on our end.
Kathleen Rigo, if you are using any call-in feature for any audio, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you.
I think we lost her. I'll circle back. Our next speaker is Nina Lenhart.
Nina Leonhardt, if you have called in to this public statement hearing, please press *3 on your phone so I can locate you. I do not see your name electronically listed.
Oh, we've got a long list to circle back to. Our next speaker is Frank Cantor. Please go ahead. You're unmuted.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody for allowing us to address the commission and to you too, Judge Sayre. My name is Frank Cantor. I'm the, excuse me, I'm the Administrative Director of the Fair Internet Coalition. The information that I'm going to present here today is a little bit different than what you've been hearing because my organization is actually the voice of the consumer. We've been very active both in New York, New Jersey, and pretty much all throughout the nation. However, myself and my deputy director happen to live on the extreme eastern Long Island. That's where we're actually coming to you from right now. And there are some problems here on Long Island that are unique to the area here. For example, I don't know if any or all of the folks here are familiar with County Road 97, otherwise known as Nichols Road. However, if you look on a map and you look to the east of Nichols Road in Suffolk County, you'll find that there's exactly one internet service provider that is providing service to that region. That one in particular being Altice or Optimum. And I can tell you from personal experience that I've had nothing but problems. I am currently paying for 300 speed down, and I'm barely getting 150 right now. So I'm getting about half and paying way more than I should be. Having said that, even as I'm talking to you right now, I'm busy switching back and forth between my Optimum service and over-the-air service that I have up from T-Mobile. So it's not exactly a black and white issue, and we are not as less dense as some of the rural areas. It's kind of a different animal. What I want to point out is that my organization, the Fair Internet Coalition, which is available to any member at fairinter.net, we have some information that we've been recording. We have well over 2,000 respondents and other people that are involved. We've also been involved with Senator Hinchey. We've been involved with Jill Faber in the Attorney General's office for the state of New York. And more locally, we've been involved with Supervisor Romaine and Councilman Laval. And so there's a couple of things that I want to point out for the record. First of all, 90% of the respondents to our survey did not recommend Optimum to their family or friends. 37% of the people that responded to us rated Optimum a 1 out of 10. Having said that, 92% of the folks that were sampled had a technician that visited in the past year to resolve issues, and only 29% of those were resolved to the satisfaction of the consumer. In addition to that, there are many that had technicians come out in excess of 9 times to try to complete the same resolution to the same problem over and over and over again. I myself fit into that category. Having said that, more importantly, more than 3 out of 4 respondents have only one single option for internet service, and an overwhelming 95% of respondents say they would switch to any other provider if there was a clear option. So the data clearly shows that there are many areas here in New York that are stuck in a monopoly. We believe very strongly that there has to be more competition, and that competition has to be fair. Now, we've presented in front of many different bodies, and one of the things that we keep hearing about is barriers to access. For example, here in Suffolk County, we have a small company called OCG Fiber that is attempting to build out east of the area that I was talking about before. And there have been issues with the law department and other entities that have prevented this from happening. We have stepped in to try to help, and we're doing everything that we can to kind of hold the light on things that seem to be very quiet so far. Competition fixes all of these problems, and it will also help to keep the price down. And we would also point out that 5G and satellite options are not necessarily comparable to cable, especially in areas that are less dense. So like the people that spoke before me, we also advocate for the idea of the gold standard, which in this case would be fiber connectivity. Competition puts pressure on incumbent providers to improve their customer service, their reliability, and their technical staff, because when there is competition, people have the ability to move to any other entity they wish. We're calling on New York regulators and lawmakers to do something to hold these entities accountable. Likewise, we've been in conversations with the New Jersey Board of Public Utilities and West Virginia Public Service Commission. We would also point the Public Service Commission to any of these entities for additional information on how they are trying to resolve some of their problems across their states and into different areas. Finally, we do reach out to people like Mr. Hart from Greene County and to others that have already spoken within this meeting or within this hearing. And we do have a wide constituent within all of those areas, including Greene County. So to the extent that Mr. Hart is listening, we would like for him to reach out to us. That's my comment. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Jacob Kraniak. If you're on your telephone, please hit *3 so we can identify you. One more to circle back to. The speaker is Frank Paxia. Mr. Paxia,
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Frank Paxia. That's P-A-X-H-I-A. I would like to take a moment and introduce myself. I've lived in various places in New York State for my entire life. Born in Rochester, I earned a Bachelor of Science in Electrical Engineering at Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute and a Master of Science from Syracuse University. I spent 36 years with IBM, with a significant number of them designing, developing, and supporting systems and network technologies. And we've been fortunate to live in locations where we subscribe to broadband coax technologies and used it for connecting to work and living our lives in today's digital world. Our last house was located in the Hudson Valley, where we were part of Spectrum's ecosystem. We moved back to our family farm located at 2957 State Route 275 in the town of Friendship in Allegheny County. And we've been trying to get high-speed broadband cable access at the farm for many years. Spectrum has a fiber optic trunk line that runs right past our house. Spectrum and Armstrong's service cables come to within a mile of our house, but Spectrum only entertained the idea of hooking us up if we paid for 4,000 feet of aerial cable and equipment to the tune of $40,000. We were excited about having Armstrong service our area as their map showed, but we signed up on their webpage and then later found out that we were in a census block granted to HughesNet. HughesNet. And by the way, Spectrum and Armstrong trucks go by our house daily. I could talk for a long time of how inferior a solution HughesNet satellite is compared to a coax or fiber connection. Just let me give you the basics. HughesNet says they will deliver 25 megabits per second on a download, about an order of magnitude slower than coax or fiber, and that's on a good weather day. I talked to HughesNet about their subscription plans, and if we wanted, say, 100 gigabytes a month, which is just about 2 hours of HGTV per day, it would be about $500 a month as compared to $60 to $70 per month for a true broadband coax or fiber. Hughes even admits on their webpage, HughesNet is not recommended for real-time gaming, virtual private networks, or full-time video streaming as a replacement for TV service. While satellites might meet the FCC's definition of broadband, it's more than 10 times the cost of their performance at a tenth of their performance. We don't live in the middle of a 10,000-acre wilderness. We're on a very busy state highway. Our neighbors and I would like the opportunity to be afforded the opportunity to subscribe to coax or fiber. I would like the following questions answered. Who granted HughesNet our census block? How can we get this changed to a true 200 megabit per second broadband provider, or at least have one added to our census block? And why did New York State award HughesNet over $15 million? They develop no infrastructure and provide no added value. In closing, I hope you understand there's no way I'm going to regress to a satellite-based internet solution. And I think it's an atrocity that 1,473 census blocks in Allegheny County were awarded to HughesNet. And that's my statement, and I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. We have a person who has pre-registered by telephone. When I call out your name, you will need to hit *3 so that we can recognize you and unmute your line, and then we will call on you. Our next speaker is Gail Blunt. Please hit *3. I'd like to remind everybody on the line, especially those by telephone, if you're having a technical problem making your statement, we're monitoring the 800 number used for calling in registrations, and we'll try to help you with the problem. The number is in the notice of these hearings, and it is 800-342-3330. Again, 800-342-3330. Not hearing from Ms. Blunt, I'm going to go back through the list of people who pre-registered that we haven't heard from yet. Start with Monty James from the town of Lewis. Are you on the line? If so, please hit *3 from your telephone or use the raise hand icon if you're on your computer that's shown on the slide that's being displayed now. Robert Drake from Shandaken. Again, please use the raise hand function or hit *3. Keith Cooper from the Spencer Van Etten Central School District. Mark Smith. Again, please hit *3 if you're on the phone. Use the raise hand function if you're on your computer. Kathleen Rego. Dina Lenhart. Jacob Kraniak. Again, hit *3 if you're on the phone or use the raise hand function if you're on your computer. I think Mr. Kraniak signed up for the 6 p.m., so I hope we'll pick him up then. And Gail Blunt. Please hit *3. Well, we've run through speakers very quickly and have additional time left in this hearing. I'd like to give people who did not register in advance an opportunity to speak. I'll start with the people who are participating electronically. You need to find an icon on your screen and take a look at the slide that's being shown. That looks a little bit like a hand, usually down somewhere around the lower right of the screen, not always. You might have to move your cursor around to make it appear. If you click on that, Ms. Kalis from our Consumer Services Office, who is actually running this meeting, will find you in the participant list, will call your name and unmute you. When she calls your name, please go ahead and make your statement. And again, when you are finished, please click on that hand again to unraise your hand so that we won't have a lot of raised hands all at the same time. So go ahead. If you're on the computer and you want to make a statement, please click the raise hand icon.
Richard Frank, hand is raised. Should I unmute?
Hi, all, it's me again. I spoke earlier. I just wanted to speak to the last gentleman's comments about HughesNet. Just so you understand what happened was at the time that was done by the FCC. The FCC used a one served, all served model all across the country. New York State adopted the FCC's broadband mapping. So HughesNet may have had one customer in that area. That's how they got that whole census block. So just so you understand how that happened. Secondly, I'd also like to point out we have a big issue here in New York State. Former New York Telephone, now Verizon, has been shifting all their funds from the wired line side of the house to the wireless. Now there's been investigations. There's actually litigation in DC about it. You can find that information, newnetworks.com. That's all being litigated because that's a bait and switch. They're basically taking one, money from one division and putting it in another. And there's a lot of ramifications to that. The other thing I like to point out with New York State, New York Tel and Verizon is the fact that 15 years ago, when Verizon promised the state of New York they would do FiOS, because we knew 15 years ago this was an issue, the New York State then turned around and gave them tax incentives. So New York State is Verizon is the largest employer in New York State. They don't pay any tax because they promised Verizon FiOS, never delivered. I think there needs to be some sort of accountability for that, and the state should be looking at that. Additionally, the New York State Broadband Office had spent $1 billion, and we've got very little to show for that, and mainly because that went to incumbent middle mile providers. And half of what they said they were going to build never got built. I think somebody needs to do an accountability of where that $1 billion went that New York State Broadband Program Office let out, because it wasn't given out by areas and maps. It was given out by white paper documents, and there's been no accountability for that $1 billion. So that would be a good start as well. And then again, we need to abolish that Perm 75 and work with the pole owners on reducing the make-ready costs. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Frank. Next, I'll go to people who are participating by telephone, who did not register in advance but would still like to speak. If you wish to speak, please press *3 now on your telephone. Ms. Kalis will find all the people requesting to speak, and we will unmute you one by one. Please go ahead and press *3 now if you'd like to speak. Ms. Kalis, do you see any requests to speak?
No raised hand other than Richard Frank, who just spoke right now.
And I think we can wrap these up. I want to remind members of the public that they may submit public comments throughout this proceeding. And let's advance to that slide by the other means described earlier. One more slide. There you go. And in the notice of public statement hearing issued on January 26th. But as we explained earlier, we really need to hear from you by March 18th to include your input into the study. I thank the commenters for their participation. I also thank Commissioners Berman and Majori for participating. Sangeetha Kalis from our Consumer Services Office for administering this session, and our court reporter, Howard Hubbard. And we will go off the record at this time.
Okay, one moment. Okay, we are off the record.
Thank you.
Everyone, please stay safe and have a great rest of the afternoon. We will go ahead and end the live stream and tear down the phone call. Thank you.